In this lesson, I'm going to demonstrate the concept of polymorphism in Java. And also, I'll talk about the superclass and subclass one more time. We've been working with classes, methods, and objects, but how does the concept of polymorphism fit in? In other words, what really is polymorphism? Well, in biology, the word poly means many and morphism means change, right? So variations, in other words, as shapes change. So think of the word polymorphism as, for example, a virus in terms of biology where it constantly mutates, right? So it takes one shape and it takes another shape and so forth. Well, the main template, if you will, stays the same, called virus, right? So it's still a virus, but it just takes on various shapes. Now let's relate this concept to object-oriented programming. Polymorphism refers to the ability of a variable, function, or object to take on multiple forms. It's just that simple. So it's a language that features polymorphism, allows developers and programmers to program in the general rather than program in the specific. So in fact, I'm going to demonstrate the concept of polymorphism in Java. We'll create a package called animals, and we'll have a bunch of insects maybe within the package, and then I'll demonstrate how it relates to the actual concept. But as a different example, if you were to assume there's a base class named animals, for example, from which the subclasses like horse, fish, bird are derived, and if you were to also assume that animal class is a function named move, which is inherited by all the subclasses mentioned, which is horse, fish, and bird. With polymorphism, each subclass may have its own way of implementing the function. So, for example, when the move function is called in an object of the horse class, for example, the function might respond by displaying, let's say, galloping on the screen. On the other hand, when the same function is called in an object of a fish class, swimming might be displayed on the screen. So in case of bird, it may be flying. So the real advantage of polymorphism for a developer is that it trims down the work for the programmers and developers, because now you can create a sort of a general class with all the attributes and behaviors that the developer envisions for it. All right, let's go ahead and jump right in. Let me, in fact, demonstrate the concept of polymorphism. So let's open up our Java Eclipse editor. So once I'm in the Eclipse editor, notice within the package explorer, we've created several packages in the previous lessons. And of course, our default package contains various Java applications, and then we created package 1, 2, and so on. So I'm going to select Java Introduction and simply create a new package. And once again, we create packages so that we can organize our code rather than creating, for example, in the default package, you'll notice there are so many of these files that we've been working with. Well, now we've graduated a little bit, right? So we are going to create packages, and then each package would contain its related set of Java files. Great. So let's go ahead and select Java Introduction. Let me go ahead and create a new package, and I'm going to call this animals. Simply click Finish, and this creates a package called animals. Obviously, it's still blank. There's nothing within this particular package at this point. Next, I'm going to create several classes. Since we're talking about insects, I'm going to create an insect.java file. I'm going to create maybe spiders, beetles, ants, and so on. So next, I'm going to create several Java files within this animals package. So first we select, of course, the animals package, and let me go ahead and create a new class. And I'm going to call this app, and this will be our main class, and then of course we'll create subclasses as well. So here's the class called app. Simply click Finish, and notice since we're working with the animals package, by default it displays package animals. Perfect. Next is our public class called app, which is fine, and here I'm going to create, let's say, the public static void main, of course our string array goes in here, and then our command line argument. open our curly braces. All right, here I'm going to create, let's say, an array of insects, right? So once we create the array, next we'll create subclasses. So recall, an array in Java is just, think of that as a list of items, right? So we're just creating a list. So I'm going to call this insect, all insects, new insect, and of course the number of items that I like is, let's say, 3 for now, and then define those 3 insects. So all insects, first we start off with a 0, and of course the name would be new. I'm going to call it roach. That's the first object. And then all insects 1 equals new. We'll call it beetle. That's the second one, and of course let's create another one because we need 3, right? So all insects, call it 2, and this would equal new spider. Great. Let's fix the spelling of all insects here in the second option for the beetle, so just capital I. Great. So once I have defined the array, next I'm going to create, let's say, a loop, right? So we can get the output, and it's going to loop through each one of these insects. So let's go ahead and create for int I equals 0, and then I is less than all insects dot length. I'm going to increment the value for I. Open the curly braces, all insects, get the I in the array, eat, right? So all insects eat, perfect, semicolon. Now notice at this point, of course, the IntelliSense works, and the Eclipse editor tells me that there's some mistakes, right? There's some multiple markers at this time. Insect cannot be resolved to a type because it's trying to find the insect.java within this package called animals, right? So right now I only have app.java, but I'm referencing all insects, but there is no such thing at this point. So to fix this, of course, we need to create other classes. Now, we could have done it the other way around. We could have created the subclasses and then created the main app, or either way. So whichever way you're comfortable, you can go about doing it. But typically, we create the app.java, and then of course we create subclasses later on. So my next class would be a public class called insect. So simply select animals, click on new Java class, and let's call it insect, because that's what we're referring to here, is the same name. It has to be the same name, otherwise it's not going to work. So once you have specified the name, click finish. And of course we use the same package called package animals. Public class is insect, and here I'm just going to specify void, and then the eat method, curly braces, and of course the simple printout, system.out.println. And then what am I printing here? Let's say just the word eat, right? So all insects eat. Great. So now I have an insect.java. And if I go back to my app.java, for example, right here, notice I'm calling eat here, right? So therefore, it is referenced in insects.java file as being eat, so that it prints out eat. But we're not going to run it right now. I'm going to create other classes for the rest of the insects, right? Because we need to have a class for roach, beetle, and of course spider. So let me go ahead and create those quickly. So just select animals, click on new class. Next would be, let's say, the roach. Click finish. And the text or the lines stay the same, right? So for each of these, I'm going to say void eat, open the curly braces, and system.out.println. Use that. And of course, all insects eat. So I'm going to stick to the same thing here. Similarly, let's select animals, click another class, and this would be called beetle. Click finish. Same thing, just repeating the same steps. So I'm going to say void eat, open the curly braces, and of course our system.out.println. Use that. And I'm going to say the same thing. It's eat. Close the quotations. Perfect. And our last insect is the spider. So let's go ahead and quickly create that also. Select animals first. Click on the new Java class. And let's name this spider. Click finish. And create something called void eat with a set of parentheses. Open the curly braces, and of course the system.out.print, and then same thing. Perfect. So you follow what's going on, right? So we have the package called animals, we have the app.java, we have beetle, insect, roach, and spider. Of course, insect being the template, and beetle, roach, and spiders are just variations, right? Or the types of insects. So let's navigate back to app.java. And next, of course, I need to save all of these, right? And another way to tell, notice there's a little asterisk next to each of these files. So asterisk next to roach, asterisk next to beetle, spider, app, and insect, right? This means that I've not saved any of these. All I've done is just created these files, but nothing is saved. So let's click on the run, and it saves automatically, right? It brings up the dialog box. So let me go ahead and click on run app. The save and launch dialog box appears, and it asks select resources to save. And of course, I'm going to make sure all of these are checked and click OK. All right, it brings up the errors in workspace. Let's proceed to see what's going on. Or it says animals.app.main cannot convert from spider to insect. All right, let's check the spider.java. All right, so this is what's happening. Notice when we created the classes for spider, beetle, roach, we specified them to be their own public classes. Well, that's not exactly the case because we're extending the insect.java, right? So all we have to do is just specify, for example, public class roach and say extends insect, right? Otherwise, the program doesn't recognize and it treats the roach.java as its own public class. So we do the same thing for beetle. So public class beetle would extend insect as well. So just right here, I'm going to say extends insect. And of course, the spider, same thing. Perfect. So extends insect. Great. And now let me go ahead and run it again, save all the files, and perfect. We get the results, which is eat, eat, and eat. And the reason why is because within our app.java, we have 3 insects, roach, beetle, and spider. And of course, they all eat because we printed out for insect the word eat, for roach the same thing, and so on. So let's switch to our app.java. Perfect. So you get the idea, right, of polymorphism in Java. So now that we've actually seen how polymorphism in Java works, let me reiterate the concept. Let's go back to the core concept. So let me go ahead and open up my Word document here. And the normal way that we've been creating objects is obviously from, let's say, the superclass, which is the main broader perspective called insect, and then we created a subclass called beetle, and of course the objects as well. So here we simply created the subclass called beetle, and of course the object also called beetle. In essence, it's a one-to-one relationship, right? So this is the typical normal way we've been creating objects. Now we can also create these objects directly from the superclass called insects. And that's really where morphism comes into play. So if I scroll down, this is how we typically create objects from our superclass. So the superclass is insect, and now the code says insect beetle obj equals new beetle. In other words, we're creating the beetle objects directly from the superclass. And all we're doing here is changing this word right here. It says insect now instead of beetle. Because if I were to scroll up, notice it says beetle here because this is coming from the subclass. Whereas if I were to scroll down one more time and take a look at the word insect here, this is coming from the superclass. So number of variations that you can use, whether it's from the subclass or superclass. So let's switch back to our Eclipse editor. Perfect. So now that we have the concept down, we also took a look at how polymorphism works in Java. Let me go ahead and, in fact, let's say add another insect, right? So I'm going to go ahead and simply do all insects, and let's say this would be 3 in my array, and this equals new, I'm going to call it ant, right? Something like that. All right, once ant is created, of course, I need to go up and increase the number 3 to 4 because now I have 4 objects. And likewise, I just need to go and also create another class for ant, because otherwise the IntelliSense says, hey, wait a minute, ant cannot be resolved to any type. Where is this coming from? What's happening, right? So we just simply select animals and let's create a new class. I'm going to call this ant, for example. Click finish. Our package is the same, and simply, before I use the void, of course, let's go ahead and extend it, right? So don't forget that. So public class ant would extends insect, right? So now we know that Java would recognize this. So I'm going to say void eat, set of parentheses, open the curly braces, and of course a simple printout, system.out.println, and ants also love to eat. You can place any text. Great. Let's run this. Of course, the save and launch dialog box appears. It wants me to save app.java and ant.java because these are the 2 files that we made changes to. Click OK. And of course, the output is perfect. So we have eat, eat, and eat, and ants also love to eat. So here you can see polymorphism in action. So I hope this helps. Practice, and let's move to the next lesson.